What's good everyone, my name is Chefkoch and today I want to talk about some actual cloud rap legends, Friendzone. Friendzone was a music producer duo based in the East Bay of California that consisted of James Lawrence and Dylan Resnick. In his teenage years, Dylan was in a noise rock band called Robin Williams on Fire, and he decided to do a concert at his mom's house around 2005, and a friend of Dylan suggested an artist named Doe to perform with him. So Dylan invited him, and that artist turned out to be James Lawrence. Dylan and James then became close friends and started making music together. For example, they co-founded the indie band Destroy Tokyo in 2007, but later got into hip-hop production. Dylan explained that their name Friendzone came from hanging around with two girls during the beginning of their career who were James' neighbors, and one of them said, "You guys should be called Friendzone," and they just thought it sounded really cool. Dylan and James were driven to hip-hop partly out of curiosity and got in the game by giving away tracks for free. In 2011, Friendzone sent multiple beats to the Bay Area duo Main Attractions, which would be used for Perfect Skies as well as Church. Especially Church is a timeless classic in my opinion, and James already knew Score B, one of the Main Attraction rappers, from Twitter, but since 2011, Friendzone would work closely together with the rap duo, and the four would change the rap industry forever. Friendzone's production for Main Attractions was insanely ahead of its time. They were sonically inspired by video game ambience, anime soundtracks, or lo-fi music, and their records focused on dreamy melodies, soft vocals, and an overall ethereal atmosphere. This style of music is now known as cloud rap, and Friendzone were essential producers for that subgenre. They were actual cloud rap legends, and without them, the genre would not exist like we know it today. The same goes for Main Attractions, and if you want to learn more about their legacy, check out my own video on them. With James being really talented at sample selection and Dylan having the ability to play real instruments, Friendzone had the know-how and soon also the connections to become successful in the music industry. Since everyone in the early cloud rap scene knew each other, Main Attractions, Space Ghost Perp, the ASAP Mob, and their producers were all members of a Facebook group called The Wavery, a network there. ASAP Rocky and ASAP Yams actually were big fans of the song Perfect Skies, so Yams hit up Friendzone and asked them for some beats, and the first instrumental they sent back would become their first mainstream placement. It was Fashion Killer by ASAP Rocky, which appeared on his debut album Long Live ASAP in 2013. This song completely blew up both ASAP Rocky as well as Friendzone's careers. That cloud rap sonority really resonated with rap listeners at the time, and the subgenre started taking off. Even Kendrick Lamar's label TDE was now interested in Friendzone's instrumentals, so their impact on hip-hop was now undeniable. Dylan and James did send some beats back to TDE, but they ended up being way too experimental for the label, so they never used them, but it's still incredible to think that Friendzone could have ended up on a Kendrick album. Yet Friendzone was still able to build new connections in the rap cosmos, because James found out about a rapper from the other side of the Atlantic very early on, Young Lean. As it turned out, Lean already was a big fan of the producer duo and their work for Main Attractions, so Friendzone was able to produce Solar Flare, the final track on Lean's mixtape Unknown Death 2002 from 2013. In addition, Friendzone made the instrumental for Persian Palace by Xavier Wolf and Bones, so they were gaining more and more traction in different corners of the rap industry, and everything was looking promising for them. Friendzone also released a number of instrumental albums at the time. For example, we have Collection 1 from 2012, which is a compilation of rap instrumentals and original songs that all fit in the cloud rap sonority. Next to that we have the Kuchibiro Network series, which also included some great songs like Near, for example. And in October 2013, Friendzone released their debut album DX, and many of the songs on here were actually meant for TDE, so it's interesting to imagine that Kendrick could have ended up rapping on some of these instrumentals. Friendzone then took 2 years time off to focus on Main Attractions, 808s and Dark Grapes 3. Dylan and James executively produced that record, and the 2-year wait definitely paid off. This album sounds amazing, and my favorite song on here has to be My Story. With this album, Friendzone was back in the game, but unfortunately on January 30, 2017, it was announced that James Lawrence had died at the age of 27 from undisclosed circumstances. This therefore officially ended the Friendzone era, so rest in peace to James, but the Friendzone legacy would go on forever. Following James's death, Dylan shared a previously unreleased track, Sweet Dream, on February 6, 2017 as a tribute to his late partner, and he also released the albums Collection 2 as well as Collection 3 since then. These are again compilation albums consisting of rap instrumentals and original songs, and these records are a great career retrospective for the duo. The Friendzone era sadly ended way too soon in my opinion, but I highly recommend checking out their producer albums if you haven't yet. The songs on here are timeless. Next to that, Dylan continues to make music under the alias Chlorine Mist. He mostly makes instrumental music, but he's actually tapped into the contemporary underground scene as well. He produced for Suvi as well as David Sobeys and likes music by Acid Soldier, Lucy Bedrock and Nosgoth amongst others. And it's great to see that Dylan's still up to date with today's experimental artists. So as a conclusion, Friendzone remains extremely influential to the cloud rap movement, and they reshaped hip hop production entirely by fusing ambient soundscapes with rap, steering the genre towards a more ethereal direction. When talking about cloud rap producers, we often only acknowledge Clams Casino, and I don't want to downplay his impact, but Friendzone were heavily influential to the scene as well since 2011. That's why I highly recommend to check out their instrumental tapes as well. Friendzone's legacy needs to live on forever in my opinion. I think we owe that to James, and with that being said, thank you for watching, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so we can hit 2000 subscribers before the end of the year. Cheers!